ain't playing weak, no, I'm playing for keeps. Can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah.
Welcome to RaceKraft V8 Vets on SimSpeed TV, Season 21. This is Round 4 from Long Beach Street Circuit. It's the Port of Long Beach 150 kilometers of racing action coming up for us tonight.
Apologies there, folks. I'll jump in here as well. Daniel Yeaman jumping on the mic quickly for part of the introduction. We'll be joined by Scott Rankin as usual here tonight. But unfortunately, he's just been wrapping up after doing double duty here on a Thursday. So apologies for that one there. But yeah, as David said, heading to the streets of Long Beach tonight. It's our one and only street circuit of the season as well, David. So concrete walls are close nearby on either side for the drivers tonight.
Yep, it's a super tough racetrack. Here it is on the West Coast. Part of the LA metro area that is oh so sprawling and expansive, but we're down here between Long Beach Airport, where they used to build planes, and the Port of Long Beach, where they still move an incredible number of containers, but we're here to move race cars. There's been a whole variation of different Long Beach street circuit configurations around here, but they've eventually settled on this version with the famous fountain section around turns 2 and 3 there. The long shoreline drive from a very tight hairpin, a long, fast section towards that braking zone at turn 1. You've even got the back straight there, a seaside way towards turn 9. Those are your key overtaking opportunities, I'd say, into 1, into 9. The rest of the way around, you're surrounded by the buildings, the convention center, the aquarium, the concrete walls, and even a whole bunch of apartments, hotels, all of that. Shopping centers around here too. At turn 11 hairpin. It's such a massive concertina effect on the field through there, and then you've got to go single file along Aquarium Way past the fountain very picturesque, which is easy for me to say, but tough to race through that part. You've got to save up your energy and your attacks for the other parts of the lap. It's a short little lap as well, only just over 3 kilometers.
Yeah, 100%. It is going to be one to watch out for. Maybe chuck in turn 6 and 8 as an extra place to attack potentially around this spot. And if you've got a really good run out of Firestone turn 9 there, maybe set up for Indy left for the hairpin. But that comes with a lot of risk here as well. And with a fairly full field of cars, once again, as we're expecting here tonight, our drivers will be starting too wide, almost all the way back towards that hairpin here. I do believe with our numbers we won't go round the hairpin, thankfully, David, but it'll be close for those guys at the back.
And like all good American racetracks, they've invented corner numbers in places where I'm not sure they needed to. Look at turns 6 and 7 there. Really, that's one corner. It's worse than Road America, but it's an exciting racetrack. We'll see what it'll bring for all of our competitors in the race to come. Looking at that race info, 150 kilometers and a little bit of change to go with it. That's 48 laps of this racetrack. Starting fuel 50 litres, but it's an uncapped fuel tank. So when it does come time to make your pit stops, you really can load a lot in at that first stop. Typical fuel burn of around 2.8 litres per lap. And of course, your strategy options can be widened if you choose to save some in the pack, if you choose to try to reduce your pit stop time, but increase your lap times just a little bit. Total fuel to add will be 78 to 85 litres with 2 compulsory pit stops. That compulsory pit stop window opening at lap 2. And the critical lap number for the second stop could be between laps 7 to 9. That's always something we keep our eyes on. Do you try to go really, really late on your strategy? That'd be the yellow line on this graphic. Or do you try to really fill it up early and hope that it comes back to you in the later part of the race? That'd be the red strategy. Normally, though, depending on safety cars and that teal intermediate strategy is the way to go.
Yeah, as it has been almost every single time we get uninterrupted running, although being at this kind of a place, safety car probability might be high. Unfortunately tonight, just the one driver responding in terms of their thoughts on the track. And I can say real quick, David, that their probability of safety cars, they stuck at 5 out of 5 for a basically very high, bordering on perhaps absolute probability to come their way. But also, the other thing to keep in mind is with the setups, the fixed setup stuff here, the drivers generally say the balance is best when they keep it around that starting fuel level. So I would expect drivers looking to go sort of, as I said, even to long stint options if they aren't sort of constrained by safety cars early on, giving them a free stop, which will be necessary here due to the pit delta.
I think for a street circuit, we can quite comfortably make up the numbers that the likelihood of a safety car is very high, the difficulty for passing is very high, and the opportunity for fuel saving is pretty decent as well, because the drivers will struggle to pass you while you're saving through sections of the lap, like approaching the final hairpin, like through the fountain sections, turns 2, 3, 4, hardly any passing can take place through there, and the leading car can really opt to save if they want to. It's round 4 of the championship here now. So how do they run after those 3 rounds? Scott Gamble's out front in the standings from Ken Latter in second. Sean McNamara has jumped up into 3rd place at the expense of Michael Stewart. Damien Cairns, Mark Point, and also making some spots there. Chris Miller was one of the big performers from last time out at Oschersleben, and he's jumped up to 7th in the standings with some decent gains there. Tim Nicol also accompanying him. Chris Smart and John Latham stay inside the top 10. Biggest mover since last round, or the round previous. Jamie McKnight jumping 11, and Dan Hall also jumping some big spots. And Mike Taliancic, we haven't seen as much of him as we would like, and hopefully we'll see plenty more of him in V8 Vets for the remainder of the season though.
So fingers crossed there indeed, as we are now joined by Scott Rankin, so I will start shutting up and hand over to him. Join you here on the commentary as usual, David. But speaking of which, it's going to be interesting to watch how things go. Little stat from me before I sign off. Scott Gamble's points tally so far, he is missing just 1 possible bonus point to otherwise have a perfect 3 rounds to kick the season off. And we have a total of 43 drivers who have taken part in at least 1 round this season. Unfortunately, not all 43 of those drivers have scored points so far, but with that out of the way, I'll now hand over to Scott to join you here, David, but also tune in now to have a quick speaking of good performances last week, our Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day recap from round 3 last time out.
Yeah, there we go. Scott Rankin. Scott Gamble is the driver to watch and the driver for all of them to stop. And this was the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day last time out, and we kind of decided that based mainly on strategy, didn't we, Scott?
Well, I mean, he drove phenomenally to put the... You can sit there and say, did he put the strategy together? Well, yes, but at the same time, he's still got to be quick enough. He's still got to put the car in all the right places, because if you remember, Ken Latta was on the same strategy, but made a big error at one point in the race, and that promoted Chris Miller. So you can see at the moment, qualified 17th, as it currently stands for today, but last week's Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day from Oschersleben. And streets of Long Beach, a far cry from the tight and twisty turns of Oschersleben. What was a difficult race to overtake last week is met with another difficult to overtake race again this week. Get the feeling, Dave, strategy is going to play another card. Will Chris Miller be able to pull it out 2 weeks in a row? Only time will tell.
Absolutely. A circuit where passing can be difficult. The chance of a safety car is very, very high. So let's take a look at our drivers on the Zoom wall. Who's joining in? And this is a unique little thing to V8 Vets, isn't it? 1 bonus point to the drivers for connecting and showing us what's up.
Do we actually have the safety car on Zoom? That's sick. I've never seen that before. That's brand new. That's when we threw to the Zoom wall, that is not what I expected to see. Scott Gamble is obviously away and refreshing himself and making sure that he is all set to go.
I reckon he's in a sauna, shadow boxing, doing his warm up.
Jason Fewens sits there, and the eyes are not quite. The grimace hasn't started yet. He actually looks quite relaxed here tonight, does Jason Fewens. How's the dyno? I get the feeling the dyno is going to be put through the roof here tonight. That'll be getting a workout. Tim Nicol is looking reasonably comfortable and relatively relaxed. Jeff Thomas takes a lean on the old gear shifter. He's looking relatively relaxed. Scott McCune, it's tough to read him from behind. Can we give Jason Fewens driver of the day just for that already?
I don't know, but we're missing my favourite angle. Hello, safety car. Wow, shuckers from the safety car. Here we go.
Oh, my word. I love these guys. Damien Cairns, the safety car. Greg Sharp, David Kirby. That'll be Ken Latta, who has got the game face on, and Christian Smart as well in the bottom right-hand corner. The 11 drivers plus safety. Does the safety car get a bonus point? Can we, for the first time in history of V8 Veterans, does the safety car get a bonus point?
I'm looking forward to that graphic next week. It's your biggest mover, safety car, plus 1 point.
Well, that is how they all rack and stack on Zoom at the moment. You can already see the Dino Dino is working away. Ladies and gentlemen, time for your V8 Veterans grid. For tonight's round from the streets of Long Beach, another pole position and an all 9.5 front row. Scott Gamble lines up alongside team boss Sean McNamara on the front row. 39 thousandths of a second separate those two on the front row. Not too far further back, and less than a tenth of a second, was Ken Latta on row number 2. Teammate Dave Kirby makes it 2 teams in 2 rows on row number 2. Paul Warwick and Travis Hunt are going to make up row number 3. Remember, JWM Esports very, very quick the last time we came here from the V8 Veterans, and Jeff Thomas pulled out one of his strategies of the season to put himself in a reasonable position. Travis Hunt will start inside the top 6. Matt Vanderkraan and Michael Stewart. Again, these two continuing to put strong qualifying performances between the pair of them. Only 1/100th of a second separates these two drivers. The final 2 inside the top 10. Damien Cairns continues to impress and is showing a host of speed and accelerate sim racing machine off alongside of Blake Delaney to round out the 10. John Latham will put a qualifying time in, and a good one at that, to start just outside the top 10. Logan Barnett joins the 9.5 SimSports outfit, and a team change for him inside the top 12 means that we have 395 SimSport drivers all within the top 12. Tim Nicol and Dean Favell will be the first cars outside of there. Nicol looked comfortable and quick on Zoom, and Dean Favell will have 2 Zoom drivers off of row number 7. Lorne Mackay and Brad Doble. Brad Doble joined the series last season. Lorne Mackay this season in the top split for him. 8th row of the grid for those two. Chris Millers was the driver of the day last week off of the 9th row of the grid. He will start alongside of Stuart Hall. And 19th and 20th, rounding out our top 20, Michael Whiting from Chad Lewis. Whiting a lot deeper in the field, not certainly feeling the comfort levels that he would have liked here tonight. First driver outside of the 20 is going to be in 21st. Dan Hall, Mark Poynton will line up alongside of him. Both of those drivers a little bit further back. I can tell you Dan was actually traveling this week a little bit earlier on in the week. I was going to catch up with him for a podcast, but then unfortunately that didn't happen. So either way, Robert Crisdale and Stephen Varga are going to start off of row number 12, and in behind them will be Darren Goosey and Jeff Thomas. Jeff, last time we were here, started up in the front couple of rows and went on to pull off a masterclass in terms of strategy. A lot of work to do, though, from deeper in the field. He'll be looking to survive the opening laps. Darren Crosby and John Gallen will be in behind them, also looking for a little bit of a survival effort. Craig Friend has not been Race Control's biggest friend over the last couple of seasons. Will start at a 29th, and David Nash will be alongside of him for 30th. Christian Smart deeper in the field, much deeper in the field than he would have liked. 31st, Gary Buckland will be alongside of him. 33rd and 34th, Robert Griffiths and Troy Stonestreet. Jason Fewens might have been dancing away on the Zoom feed, but his rear tyres must have been dancing away on the track, not able to get speed to the ground for him out of 35th spot. Greg Sharp will be 36th. Scott McCune didn't put a qualifying time together. Neither did Stephen Lanyon, I believe, won't actually be in the split. It'll be Matty Parker will be the next driver and the final driver to qualify out of 38th spot.
Yeah, again, a few drivers in that without qualifying times that you might expect, but it comes down once again to this qualifying format of 10 minutes and 2 laps. At other circuits, maybe there are challenging corners where you run wide and your lap becomes invalidated. Around here, it might be scraping that wall too much, or even at turn 5, I think it is, you can hop too much curb there on the inside, and that's a classic supercars thing, hopping too much curb on a street circuit.
Yeah, and curbs right the way around are a big thing that we're going to be talking about all night long. Strategy, 50 litres will be the starting tank capacity, so there is quite a big hole in that one. If we get a safety car early, that could be critical. 7 to 9, early on to get that second stop out of the way, and safety cars I think are going to play into that 150 kilometers here, but street circuit racing runs a touch slower, Dave, which means that the race duration will still be really important. And the big one, I think this will be an important number, will be 36 laps here tonight. Must complete 36 laps.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough one from that standing start down towards turn 1 on the first time through, because we've seen at some other circuits they remain too wide for, you know, a couple corners through the opening laps, particularly through the middle and the tail of the field. But here, by the time you get to turn 2, you've got to be single file pretty much. Maybe on the opening lap, if everyone's going to tiptoe around, you can go too wide through there, but normally not at anything approaching a race pace.
No, I think the biggest one is if I'm too wide heading into there, I'm generally expecting the guy that's behind to back out as well. So I was still trying to approach the corner as if it's going to be single wide, which can actually create an incident. So that's worthwhile watching for. But you got to try and it's difficult reading things around Long Beach, and it takes a lot of reading, and it takes 2 to tango around a street circuit as tight as this. Absolutely,
there's so few corners here where the apex, the exit isn't, you know, the concrete walls, and maybe through the penultimate corner you feel like you get a little bit more space through there. The track opens up a little bit through between turns 6 and 8. That feels like some of the widest part of the racetrack, but everywhere else you're running right up against the concrete wall, then you turn in and almost kiss the concrete wall, and then get to power and track out right up against the concrete wall. You've got to be comfortable with that for all of this racing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are about 45 seconds away from going green flag racing. Lights out from Long Beach. 150 kilometers. Who were you watching along at home? Who have you got your numbers on? Because it's going to be an all-out brawl. Scott Gamble has been the car to beat, but could somebody find a way through? Could an poorly timed safety car, as can often be the case, a little bit of luck can go your way from the streets of Long Beach? Anything can and will happen. So, watching along at home, let us know who you're supporting here tonight. Dave, anyone that you think has got the opportunity to beat Gamble from the front?
Oh, maybe there could be some Ken Latta redemption arc this time around.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time. The revs from the front of the field are going to start to rise. We will take a run all the way down to turn number 1. Who is going to find the ability to get off the getaway? And I think McNamara got a better launch on the initial part of the start, but it was Scott Gamble who got the better second phase of the start. Ken Latta tried to cut across, but McNamara swapped sides of the grid to cover that one off. Kirby got ahead. Kirby's going to be side by side with McNamara, but on the wrong side. There's a huge wreck up at the back end of the field. I have no idea who's involved in that one, but there is a huge incident at the tail end of the field.
I'm seeing Stuart Hall and then also Chris Miller, I think, got tagged up in that. And so from 3 wide, 4 wide approaching turn 1, one car speared across and then collected a few others, and they're stationary coming through the fountain as well.
Yeah, you got to be stationary, unfortunately, to cut your way through. But, yeah, it is what it is, and everyone's going to have to try and find their way through. Who is going to find the advantage at the round from Long Beach?
Scott Gamble will be very thankful of his good qualifying, because all of that happens in his mirrors, and he's almost got a 1 second lead on this opening lap ahead of his teammate. The two of them can just try to control this for the moment. No safety car from that. Looks like it was sort of really clumsy but slow speed stuff that hasn't done massive damage. You've got to be going way quicker into the concrete walls to disable your car and potentially bring out safety car.
Ladies and gentlemen, cutting our way down on the run to turn number 1 on lap number 2. Who's going to be able to find the drive? Who's going to be able to cut their way through the field? Will be the big old question for this one, because there's going to be some work to do for a number of drivers up and down the field. Gamble has the lead as we enter second half of lap number 2. McNamara's managed to slot in. Kirby got that great getaway there, Dave, and that's so crucial, is getting that getaway. But have a look at Travis Hunt, how close he is to the rear background of Latta, and around goes Mark Point, and unfortunately goes tumbling through the field as well.
Yeah, up and down the field, like you said, and that's what some of the drivers have done from that race start. So Mark Poynton's gone towards the back here. Stuart Hall, Dean Flavel, they all lost a chunk of time, but the big gainers, 10 positions for Scott McCune, not bad. Dan Hall +6, +8, I think, for Darren Crosby. So there are a few drivers. I mean, sometimes it happens like this, not even through skill, but just good luck. You happen to be in the right place. It opens up for you. You go through one of those incidents and gain 4 or 5 positions on the opening lap. Someone's got to be lucky when a bunch of drivers get unlucky.
Yeah, unfortunately for some that go backwards, others will manage to go forwards. Craig Fernandez managing to cut his way through. And how about this? Sean McNamara next, the first fastest lap of the race. Gets a little bit of a tow, certainly, to help. Who was that? Was that John Gallen trying to crawl towards pit lane at the back end of the field? I think it might have been.
Someone went wide through 8 and collected the tyre barrier and might have damaged their front left suspension. So you've got Flavel and Hall both hitting the pit lane now as the compulsory pit stop window opens, and I think they might have both had a bit of damage as well, but not enough to force them in earlier. They just make sure they want to get to that CPS window that's open now.
So it was an incident from lap 1 that unfortunately was triggered by netcode. Whoa! For Chris Miller. Hey, look, Ma, look what I can do. Please don't do that again. Chris, that was way too dramatic from the rear end of your car.
Oh, but we're entertained though, aren't we? But certainly not a great way off of this race start to treat those rear tyres. You don't know how long you're going to need them on this run, because we could have gone, you know, safety car now. We could go safety car next lap, and you're in to try to take a big chunk of fuel and save yourself some time later on and really clear one of your first compulsory pit stops. Or this could be one of those races where you really want to run long if you can. You want to look to maybe overcut if you can. That's sometimes the way it happens at a street circuit. You're looking to overcut where possible. So for that, you need to preserve your tyres, and you probably also need to be saving a bit of fuel now if you can. And so the coast run into the braking zone at turn 1 is one of the places you could be saving if necessary.
Yeah. And that will be the question that we're asking. I can see Travis Hunt's just fallen off the back a little bit of David Kirby. Ken Ladder's found his way back on and through past Dave Kirby. So change inside of the top 3. And now to be trying to set themselves up. Paul Warwick's fallen a little bit off the back of them as well, about a second at the moment. But Vanderkran's starting to catch. We'll see if we can make a little bit of ground. Inside, Mara is doing a phenomenal job.
So I did see a little bit of traffic starting to form ahead of those race leaders, where Hall and Griffiths and some others have come out of their pit stop to be basically almost a lap down at this point, because the laps are super quick here. 78 seconds for a racing speed race lap, but the pit lane is really long and quite slow because it's a street circuit. So 64 k's an hour is the pit lane speed limit, but it's a really long lane along Shoreline Drive there, because normally it accommodates both IndyCar and IMSA, and it's a pit lane long enough for both of them, sort of like how Gold Coast used to be, as well as a few pit lanes like that, how Albert Park still is for supercars. So it's a long and slow pit lane here for what's a short and quick lap.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think you're right too, Dave, is feeding up the traffic is going to be a big key of the strategy here tonight as well. Trying to make sure that you don't encounter traffic is going to be a big key to getting the strategy right. So John Latham's moved his way inside the top 10 as well at the cost of Blake Delaney. There's the Kiwa cars just ahead of those guys as well. So they're all starting to get banked up. I think Griffiths is the cork in the bottle. You just see Travis Hunt's starting to go back towards that pack as well. Mark Poynton's now been through the lane for his pit stop. There's a couple drivers that have served their first stop, and I think it's just been as a matter of necessity rather than by choice.
I'll tell you who is used to handling a lot of traffic, though. The Port of Long Beach handled 8.1 million containers in 2022.
So that's a fair effort, far. Yeah, I mean, think about the weight of effectively, what do they call it, the weight of stuff that went through there. I've just seen actually John Latham just caught the barrier as they head down off of turn 5. So just starting to struggle. It was on the left-hand side of that car. Might get a little bit, no, it looks okay, luckily for John Latham. Tim Nichols actually grabbed a spot on lap 1. Lorne Mackay, another driver that's been successfully able to navigate lap 1. Dan Hall is driving phenomenally. Plus 6 spots on lap 1 to 15, or in the first few laps to 15. That's a great start.
I think most of that was all on lap 1, because I remember looking at that a couple of laps ago, and that's where he was, plus 6 positions. And he's kind of settling into that speed around these other drivers, not falling away at all from Lorne Mackay or Brad Dogle, but also still with Logan Barnett just behind him there as well. So he's doing the pace of these guys. He made most of that quite early on.
Well, got his way through, and Dean Flavelle, we're going to get a ride on board for the opening lap for him, because he's certainly been a part of the drama. So this will sort of give us maybe an indication of what's gone on. So everyone's sort of squabbling and fighting over bits and pieces. That's Delaney just ahead of him. Is that Lorne Mackay that just tagged him? Logan Barnett, sorry. I think it might have been Logan Barnett.
And that's where he comes back across Chris Miller and creates a bit of a car park on that side of the road. But he gets tagged a little bit from behind in some way.
Ugh. Just unlucky, and everyone else is just trying to survive, and that's how Dan Hall gained 6 spots.
Being the correct side of that, hey?
Yeah. He's just trying to find his way through, moves over slightly. And Race Control have already ruled on that and said it was netco. They don't think the cars would have definitely made contact. So there'll be no further action or a part of that one. So no penalty for Logan Barnett. And I tend to agree that there did seem to be daylight between the cars there. And Dan Hall sees all of this. Oh, at that point in time, you'd be thinking, oh no, I'm in it. Oh, look, a hole.
It just, like I say, sometimes it just opens up for you, and it's 1 in 10 times that happens. The other 9, you end up being those other drivers dragged into the wall and boxed in and off to a really rough start. But 1 in 10 times, it feels like magic.
Does indeed. Well, Dan Hall continues on at the moment, still in behind Lorne Mackay and Brad Doble, and Lorne is starting to become the cork in the proverbial bottle. And Brad just cannot seem to mount a way past him. We talk about this, though, when you head to circuits like this. It's set the pass up, force him to cover you. But the problem being with Long Beach is very, very difficult to get someone to cover you because you just go, oh, well, I'm not going to cover you.
Yeah, 2 main overtaking opportunities, like we say, and then you've really got to get, I think, a bit deeper into the stint and cars moving around. Bigger mistake from your rival if you're going to pass anywhere else. You can just park the car through the fountain section, park the car here and just really square your exit using all of the gear, but he didn't really square that exit well.
I think he tried to and then just couldn't quite get the power down. Lorne Mackay is going to be vulnerable to Brad Doble, who's going to look to the outside of the kink on the front straight away, become the inside at turn 1. Lorne trying to put the pressure on. Doble's going to get to the inside. Even as they get into the braking zone, Mackay takes the yield action and allows Brad Doble on through. Says, I'll hang on to 14th spot. Will not make it 15th because that won't present an opportunity for Dan Hall.
So that exit is so critical off the final hairpin leading onto the longer straight, because that's where it all began. Is just a little bit of wheel spin from Mackay. Brad Doble got better traction, and you're absolutely using first gear there all the way up through the 6th, pulling every single gear you can. Street circuits are often all about the rear tyres and the traction off slow corners.
Lorne is sliding those rear tyres around. He's had another wheel spin in the middle of the lap as well. More cars are coming to pit lane now as well as the pit windows start to open up. We are now past our critical lap number to make it to the end of the race. They will not be taking all of the fuel to get the car to the end of the race at this point in time. They'll just be looking to try and get some fuel in, get a fresh set of tyres on. The big key here. Yep, Dan Hall looking for the undercut. I don't blame him on that one. I think that is a good call because he was definitely getting held up.
Yeah, a whole string of them from behind this group went in. So yeah, like you say, Dan Hall, Rob Crisdale, Chad Lewis, 3 of them all go to pit from behind this group.
Now becomes an interesting matter of how long do the rest of these drivers go. They've seen the undercut get triggered. How long before they're in the lane as well? How much fuel they're going to take on board? Travis Hunt is becoming another cork in the bottle at the moment. Was early on harassing the rear of the group ahead of him. No longer for Travis. Was Ken Ladder's rear bumper, but Ladder's now made the way past Dave Kirby. Kirby's doing a reasonable job as well to maintain a little bit of a margin at the moment. It's, Paul Warwick has been there and thereabouts. The fishy drivers, they do tend to save a lot of fuel. That tends to be their go-to strategy, Dave.
Yeah, and I can see a little bit of lap traffic now up ahead of these guys. So some of those cars that were blending out near the leaders are now becoming a problem for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. So Travis Hunt's got to look forward to that. And he's going to lose one driver from his train because Damien Cairns is now going to hit the pit lane for his first stop. I'm a little surprised how early we're seeing some of these stops from a few, but I guess they must think, I've really got so much more pace than this and I'm not showing it, so they'll risk being put in some traffic elsewhere because they know they're in traffic now. What's the opposite of devil you know?
The devil you don't.
Like they know this devil and they don't like it, they'll take the devil they don't know.
Well, the thing is, Dave, when I'm having a look at the lap times, even our leaders have already fallen off nearly a second, so there is a fair bit of deg out there. So
That's the big key. Sean McNamara has got by Scott Campbell. Is that our first new race leader on the same strategy this season?
That's this lap, surely. Now, slowdowns out of turn 5 are a big concern here. So if you cut too much of the curb coming sort of out of the fountain section, heading back the other way, is that what we're going to see? It's not there. So this is turn 8 here.
Campbell was very wide there and just couldn't get the gas. They just went, yep, okay, not going to fight it. But he did say, if you recall last week, Campbell said Sean's very, very strong at road street circuits. So this doesn't surprise me, actually. He's setting sail. Scott Campbell too. Moment. Don't forget, this will be the round with probably one of the lowest amount of numbers as well. Don't forget Bathurst this weekend, ladies and gentlemen.
Seen a lot of people already on their way there or already there and camping, and they have the track to town was last night, Wednesday night, so you'd want to almost already be in town by like midday Wednesday. So yeah, make a whole big thing of it. Travis Hunt's had an issue at that same corner, so turn 8 starting to catch a few drivers out, and Paul Warwick's the driver who's going to go side by side with him and try to take that spot away. Warwick goes past Hunt, but now Matt van der Kran's thinking better of making a car park.
Somebody's going to dive the lane out of this group for sure right here. Yep, there it goes. Van der Kran's in, and Delaney's going to feed in, and another one from in behind those guys as well. It's just starting to get the feeling, Dave. Yeah, that's opportunity. Well, they're squabbling, and when they start squabbling and they're already in a battle pack like that, absolutely dive to the lane. You're going to save a lot more time than if you didn't.
Yeah, so now I cast my eyes to like what kind of pace are some of those cars that have just recently pitted done. Chad Lewis of 119.1 is not any quicker than what Sean McNamara is doing at the lead of the race, but it is quicker than what Paul Warwick and Travis Hunt just did on that lap. So I'm not sure if it's even a whole much of a tyre undercut as much of just a clean air undercut that is happening for a few of those drivers.
Speed is the name of the game at the moment. I can tell you Dan Hall's certainly making a fair bit of time at the moment. Blake Delaney and Matt van der Kran, where are they going to come out relative to Dan Hall? Because that is effectively clears them and clears them comfortably. So Dan Hall has made the most of those fresh tyres in that clear air, and there's those two guys. Chad Lewis has jumped them as well. Is that a long pit lane transition time for Tim Nicol with very little stop time I saw as well? It was in excess of a minute, was only in the lane for 28, in the box for 28 seconds.
No, I think that's just it's just the longest stop we've seen.
Okay. Yep, so that's relative. All right, never mind. We'll cross that one off. So a short stop for Dan Hall, just enough to get the tyres covered, get out and start setting reasonably quick lap times and try and make some benefit out of the clear air. So at the moment he is certainly making hay whilst the sun shines. Smart Stone Street are in, as is David Nash and John Latham, and Dan Hall just clouded the inside wall at the final corner.
Yes, he did, and then it put him offline on the exit, so that's not great.
What's happened to Tim Nicol? I think he might be stuck. Indeed, he is stuck. Well, okay, so this now throws a cat amongst the pigeons. There's a bunch of guys who haven't done their first stop yet.
I was about to say, Dan Hall's exposed if there's a safety car, which there is. Sean McNamara, Scott Gamble are in. They are very, very clever with that.
No, they're in trouble. Because there's
They
cars...
were in before it was called, but I saw they were both in pit lane before it was called, and then everyone else wants to pit anyway. So I think this works out for Gamble and
something's going on with Ken Latta because he's past cars under yellow, potentially we're hearing, with lap traffic in behind him. He was trying to clear. So there's a few little bits and pieces to unravel, and last season Ken Latta also made a Mickey of the strategy at Detroit Belle Isle, whereby he missed the pit lane. This time it's actually going to work for him though, because he will get in away from the safety car.
So then the one piece we don't have is what happened to Tim Nicol. We know where he stopped, but did it happen by striking the wall way earlier as Ken Latta comes into the lane? He's followed by a few others. Or did it happen down there? Right. He's already struck something, and then I suspect here the engine blows, so he's probably done an oil line or the radiator or something. And it is here. Turn 8, lock up, run wide, nose in there, takes the bumper off and does damage up front that then later becomes terminal.
Oh, by the way, can we go back to live pictures of Dan Hall in the pit lane? Because it's 4 wide. There's nothing he could have done when he got down the end there. He just could not pull that car up. They've sorted themselves out, but they were 4 wide in the pit lane a moment ago. So we'll have a little bit of time here to break this one down. But yeah, check this out. This is for position. Chad Lewis, Michael Whiting, and Brad Doble. And Dan Hall.
So we're past the critical lap number, and Dan Hall has stopped twice.
So Chad Lewis has also stopped twice. Can we get the number
Everyone
of
behind Blake Delaney.
for all of these cars? Everyone you see a 1 next to has to make 1 more stop.
So everyone behind Blake Delaney has stopped twice. So Blake Delaney, Damien Cairns, Matt Vanderkrant, John Latham, Michael Whiting, those could be some drivers to watch. How about Matt Vanderkrant for a sneaky podium?
So 20th, they're sitting 20th, so they are out of sequence, and they're going to be behind a whole bunch of cars. And the other thing is for these guys, is that they're going to be in a wall of traffic, so the risk is going to be major for these guys. There's going to be a lot of risks for sort of the next 10-15 laps or so that they find themselves involved in another incident. But on strategy, they're in a phenomenal position. Problem being, they've also got to try and make their way forward and make those tyres last to the end of the race. If we get another safety car, though, they just sit here and look pretty.
Now, I'm trying to work out how Ken Latta has ended up where he is.
So what's happened is Ken Latta's, the safety car hasn't picked up the leader, is effectively what's happened. The safety car's picked up P2, which is Sean McNamara. So effectively what's happened is the safety car's pulled out and expected McNamara to be the leader. But Latta, remember Latta went on for that extra lap?
Yeah.
So Latta was actually effectively the leader.
Yeah.
So at the moment, the field's effectively just neutralized whilst we deal with the glitch in the matrix.
So everyone who just pitted before the safety car came out made cleared a compulsory pit stop, and then they've pitted again with the safety car. That's their second compulsory pit stop per the rules, right? That's like first of all, they've got fuel to get to the end from this critical lap number here, but then also in all the letters of the law have been cleared as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, so what everyone else is doing right here is they're going to be saving as much fuel as they possibly can because they want to just splash and dash, and eliminate as much of that second stop. The problem being for all the guys that did just make that second stop is that they won't exactly know. They've probably overfueled down to the end of the race. They will have an extra amount of fuel on board because of just this little adventure.
But it's even if it's such a long pit lane here, that's what makes it so interesting. Blake Delaney is on 20th for track position. So you imagine your leaders like Ken Latta, Sean McNamara, Scott Gamble will be able to put a lot of time into him before they then go to make their stop. But it's a more than 30-second trundle from cone to cone without stopping for your second time. Is all the compulsory pit stop rules. But yeah, that's
30 seconds
so
plus.
interesting for Blake Delaney.
So I reckon it's we're probably looking at what, a 41-second final stop for the guys who want tyres.
Yeah,
Right?
like if you're Sean McNamara and you want to make your second stop and still be ahead of Blake Delaney, you've got to run the next 15 laps flat chat and hope you can pull 2 seconds a lap on him. Yeah, so I mean, I want to look at 20th place right now because that driver and those behind are in a really, really sweet spot of strategy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking margin for me is probably around 35 seconds. Somewhere between 30 and 35 seconds is our effective delta that they've got to build. And because, yeah, if we account for stop time, trundle time, so the margin for that Dan Hall did, and he did an 11-second stop, remember, was 44 seconds end to end. So that's about a 33-second time to transit the lane, but that's not accounting for the fact that he is actually moving during that portion of the run. So pit transit delta is about 31 to 32 seconds, add in another 10 seconds. So it's about a 40-second margin is effectively what they've got to build. And they're not going to be able to do, well, they might be able to do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? It's not like, okay, you know, the car that's made 2 stops is in 6th or 7th. Delaney in 20th for track position. So by the time we get green flag racing, he's already going to be 10 to 15 seconds behind the leader. So then how quickly do the cars between him and the race leader pit? Probably not particularly early because the thing's the same for, say, Logan Barnett in 10th or John Gallen in 15th. Their best bet now is to try to run long and build a gap on the drivers who've stopped twice.
Yep. That's what they've got to do. They don't have a choice. But they're, yeah, I mean, the rubber's neutralized. Everyone's going to be on the same amount, the same lap rubber. Field spread's going to be huge. So, and the other thing to consider is that Ken Latta has also jumped these guys in the pit strategy as well, which is a little bit of debate. And remember, we're still monitoring that there was actually some lapped cars that were overtaken after the safety car was called. So there is another question mark there. Either way, that's not our drama to build. What we're going to be talking about, ladies and gentlemen, for the rest of this race is a 40-second margin to Blake Delaney, is what we're going to be considering. That is effectively what the leaders have got to do.
Yep.
And that's difficult to sort of... we can sit here, ladies and gents, and sort of talk about what the race looks like, but yeah, you're looking at 40 seconds to Blake Delaney is effectively what you're chasing. And we'll be going green flag racing at the end of this lap. So, safety car's pulled away. Ken Latta has control of the race. And we'll be going green at the end of this lap as well.
He'll have fuel to run really deep here because he took 25 seconds at that stop, and then we've been circulating for a while under the safety car here. So Ken Latta will probably try to run this really, really long, because if he stops now, he goes to the very, very tail of the field. If he runs flat out 15, 20 laps, he might come out in the top 10 still. Here we go.
Here we go indeed. Ken Latta's going to lead us back to green flag racing. McNamara is going to be on his tail, and this could be a fired up combination, because the 9.5 SimSports boys don't think that Latta should have the lead of this race at the moment, but he does on the track, and that means that they've got to overtake him for track position will be the way that it's all going to happen. So, McNamara's got speed. They were starting to run away from Ken Latta. How does it work now that the shoe's on the other foot?
Already with 13 seconds on Blake Delaney, you saw how the field strung out coming through the hairpin on the restart.
Oh.
How about the slides from second and third place? These tyres are gone really cold for everyone. They're loaded up on fuel. The track's cold as well. It will take a little bit for them to find confidence again.
A bunch of laps under safety car. Will change things, will change the margins. Everyone that's sitting in behind Paul Warwick's found himself up towards the front end of the field as well. David Kirby's lost a spot under the pit lane cycle. Jeff Thomas is up at the pointy end of the field as well. He's got 6 extra seconds worth of fuel that he needs to add. But he'll have a light and agile car at this point in time, and Travis Hunt's just ahead of him. He might just let him go. See if Jeff can't make some ground on the cars ahead.
Other cars that have taken a lot of fuel at their first stop and are headed for a short second stop. Craig Friend, Darren Goosey, David Kirby as well on the other side. Paul Warwick has one of the shortest stops inside of these leading one-stop cars, so it will be quite painful when it comes time for him to make his second stop, and that second stop will come earlier than some of the other cars that we've hypotheticized could gain from really running long here and trying to extend away from the cars that have already two stopped. Trying to overcut them in a way.
There's some magic just sitting here and listening to the sounds and watching him pull the gears at the same time, right? I love watching that synced up really, really nicely as runs up a touch clip. Matt Vanderkruijl. Something's happened to Vanderkruijl on this opening lap, as has happened to John Garland, so we might have to get some more replays.
Sorry that I had him as one of my drivers to watch.
Wonder if John Gallen's got an issue with that right rear tyre at the moment, and visually to us it's not looking like it's all that connected. Is that Blake Delaney that's in behind him as well? And Gallen's going to have to pit this time through. He's got massive damage on board, but you can just see Delaney's not... Well, he's going to have to try and make pit lane, and Blake Delaney's trying to stuck the nose down the inside. Is Delaney still the leader of the drivers that have made their first stop?
Yes,
Gallen's
he is.
kicked on. Gallen is kicked on there.
Yeah, confusing to me. Blake Delaney's up to 17th now with Damien Cairns coming through in at 18th. Blake Delaney's now 18 seconds away from Kenneth Latta, the race leader. Kenneth Latta, the race leader, is only 2/10 away from Sean McNamara, breathing down his neck for the race lead. So many places to watch right now for how this race will play out in the remaining 26 laps.
Oh yeah, there is. There is so many different places to look at the moment. I can tell you McNamara is right up underneath that rear wing. He might just be about to have a dive at Ken Latta. He's going to show him the nose for the lead out on the track. And Latta is looking vulnerable. He might have the lead, but for how long, I think, is the bigger question. McNamara went and picked the lead off of Scott Gamble, and I think he's going to go and pick it off of Ken Latta as he just about gets into the boot of Ken Latta.
Latta was really shallow into the hairpin there, and then it compromised him on the exit. McNamara wasn't even expecting how poor of a run Ken Latta got, because then it boxed McNamara back, and he didn't leap out of the jacks how he would have liked.
Just thinking about having a go. Doesn't, slots back in again. Now he just waits for the opportunity. I think the big thing is, and what we've just seen, Dave, is making sure that you're in position at the right time is the big key.
It's interesting to watch them battling up here amongst the top three, because I think the more they battle, the better it is for Blake Delaney, who's unfortunately stuck behind John Gallen again. I mean, that's what I was talking about. It's like, okay, great strategy advantage. It's going to be a long final pit stop for these cars that haven't stopped, but you're starting at a 20th place. The field spread with 19 cars in front of you is going to be significant. Well, I didn't know it was going to be significant because of John Gallen driving around on 3 wheels. Sorry, 3.75.
There's 3... Right now, there's sort of 2 major factors that might lead to Delaney winning this race. Ken Latta is one of them, John Gallen is the other. And John Gallen just said on the in-race chatter, pitting in this lap. So I think that's trying to let Delaney know, don't get to my inside. We might have a replay of how this all started to happen. Blake, Greg Friend did get a pit lane drive through, and it'll be getting into John Gallen, which is why Gallen ended up with the issues, and then that's everyone else getting into the picture as well, and around goes Matt Vanderkran. So that's how Vanderkran fell at the tail end of the field.
I don't feel sorry for Blake Delaney anymore, though, because look at how he squeaked through that. He was a lucky boy.
And Delaney went the long way around, and there was a tag on Matt Vanderkran. So I think that might have been John Nathan. Also locked up on the way into turn 1.
So just as it's all happening, here's Delaney. He's trying to make a couple of moves if he can. And then everyone, see, look, he just squeaks through there and he gets 3 free positions. And now he's released with that pit stop from Gallen. So yeah, Blake Delaney's up into 16th place, a couple of seconds of clean air in front of him. So if he's got pace, he can lay it down. He's 20 seconds behind Ken Latta, Sean McNamara, Scott Gamble. So we'd say net he's leading those guys by 20 seconds at the moment.
Right now, yeah. And don't forget, Delaney is quick as well, so it's going to be very, very difficult to put margin over him. But they'll also get fresh tyres. And they'll also start to come back at him. So Delaney's got to really try and preserve the rubber and maintain pace at the moment. So he's catch 22.
And we're looking at all of this going, how's he compared to them? But from the driver's seat, way harder to analyse the strategy of the race and be confident that actually I don't need to press on too hard to, like, if I can be within 40 seconds of the race leaders, I'm good, is a very hard thing to tell yourself when you're in the driver's seat.
That's the margin he's sort of going to manage, and he's only fallen off just outside of 20 seconds. Now it'll become 21 seconds actually as we're talking about it. So I've just seen Lorne Mackay have an issue just in front of our race leaders at the moment. So his night's gone backwards, unfortunately. There was a ton of smoke at the end of the back straight. And there's an issue for him out of the last corner. This is the moment that Sean McNamara might have been looking for. Just didn't get the drive off the last corner he was looking for.
A couple times this has happened, and Sean McNamara is just right underneath Ken Latta, that when Ken Latta makes a mistake, it doesn't let Sean McNamara pass him. It just boxes him in behind, so he almost just needs to hold a couple car lengths further back through the hairpin. But then you don't feel as menacing, putting as much pressure on, which is what you feel like you've got to do right now.
But the problem is, if you're a couple of car lengths further back, you're never going to get it done. So he's either got to start saving, but the problem is these guys are going to run away, so he can't save.
What's Gamble doing? Because he's not... He's all the way back here now.
Doesn't look his normal confident self either tonight to Scott Gamble. He looks a little bit rattled. But he's also just playing spectator at the moment. A role that we haven't seen Scott Gamble fulfill in a while. Again, Latta's just narrow at that final corner. That might be the run. Oh, maybe. Not quite.
Toe's worth about 2 or 3 kilometers an hour down Shoreline Drive there, so McNamara just wasn't close enough that time. If he gets a good run and he's 1 car length closer, you put yourself in position to be able to attack.
But then you get excited and you put the throttle down too hard at the final corner.
Or any other corner, like Jeff Thomas, right here behind his teammate Travis Hunt, 7th and 8th. They've made one stop. The compulsory stop still to come.
Oh, McNamara's close. McNamara just got a good launch. So this might decide it. I think Ladder's going to have to cover him. No, he's not going to cover him, and McNamara seizes the opportunity, but he gets out of it. He breaks a touch early. I think he might have forced Ladder to run in a fraction deeper, so Ladder's starting to suffer. He's starting to get harassed just a little bit, and have a look at the difference in lines on the run of the final corner. Ladder will pinch a brake, does slide up the rear tyres. McNamara's closer. He's a touch closer than he was last lap. But again, just about half a car length too far back. The run will start to build from here. And again, he'll show the nose to Ken Ladder. And Ken Ladder's not going to cover it. He gets closer on the brakes. Oh, half a car length. Half a car length, Dave, and he'd have a go.
I think he pulled out of the toe too early there. Like, he was just starting to get good. He had 3-4 kilometers an hour more, and he goes and shows the nose, you know, too early. You're not looking to dive bomb the guy and make an accident, but he was just reaching this really sweet spot where if he pulled out later, he could have taken it maybe, because then he looked so much better under brakes. But by the time he'd already pulled out of the toe, then it was actually too late to try to outbrake the guy because he was pulling back in line.
Ladder was a touch wide at the apex then, coming onto the back straight away. I'm liking this because I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat, I think, for the next 20 laps. Street course racing, David Hames, how do you feel?
I feel like Blake Delaney's pace is in a questionable place, and he's been caught by Damien Cairns and Michael Whiting, who now might be the driver's best place to take the race win.
Does he have enough? Surely he has enough fuel. Surely we're not sitting here going, does he need a fuel save? McNamara's closer again. Is he going to pull out of the draft? He does! No, he covers it, he thinks about it! He thinks about shoving the nose in! Ladder's got some faith in him. Ladder has absolutely got some faith in him, I tell you that much.
So there was either big savings or a mistake last lap from Blake Delaney. It must have been a mistake because he's gone from a 122 back to a 119, which is the proper pace he should be doing. But last lap, losing about 2 seconds. Not just to this outright race leaders, but to other drivers on the same strategy as him that to this point he had covered off. It was Blake Delaney versus first, second, third. Now other drivers on the same strategy have managed to catch him.
So Delaney is tight on fuel, exceptionally tight on fuel is the word that we're getting, which means, I mean, he can do it. So first goal is to make sure that he's in spitting distance of these guys, which he's trying to do on strategy at the moment. He's got himself to the head of the queue on strategy. He's only going to be within 40 seconds of the race lead, and if the race lead keeps fighting away as it currently is, he's going to cover them off. So right now he's trying to get the fuel saved out of the way so he doesn't have to do it later on. In the meantime, McNamara wants to have a crack at Ken Ladder, needs to have a crack at Ken Ladder to see if he can disappear off in the sunset, because Ladder's got more fuel on board.
Scott Gamble also has more. He's found his rhythm and he's beginning to catch them back up again. So they're no longer making pace on Scott Gamble either.
Did you see Ken Ladder have the wiggle as well? He got very, very close to the wall. Effective leaders now changed for the guys that are on 2 stoppers and have already made their second stop. Damien Cairns now has gotten through, as is Michael Whiting. So Cairns moves into 15th spot. Oh boy! Could Damien Cairns be looking at his first ever V8 Veterans victory? He's had a couple of podiums, but never a race win.
And again, the number to look at, he's 27 seconds behind Ken Ladder. We think he needs to stay within about 40. So the pace difference between this group of cars and the top three has been big.
We've got to go up front because Ladder missed the apex at the final corner. I think this might be the first time you might see Ken Ladder cover to the inside at turn 1. No, he's not going to cover. Is McNamara going to have a go? No, he won't. He won't. Oh, that was his opportunity. That was Sean's best opportunity because that's the weakest that Ladder's been off the final corner. But he's getting weaker every lap here, Dave. Do you think he's going to have a crack? Do you think he's going to risk it?
He's got to stay in the tow longer. I don't get it. There's a handful of things about driving these cars I don't understand, but that feels like a more broad sort of racecraft point. Sort of.
Well, I think the big thing is, Ladder just about got the fence there, and now he is looking a touch weak as they head down the back straight away. This time he shadows a little bit further right. McNamara's just showing the nose. The problem for Ken is that for Sean McNamara, he's now shown the nose that many times that Ken's like, okay, he's just going to do it. Oh, McNamara slides across the curbing. And again, Ladder pinches the front brake. I think Davey said something about 10 laps ago. Sean needs to just back it up a little bit, rotate it underneath him and square that exit off, and he might get the job done.
Well, it's these three within 1 second of each other now. Scott Gamble's just watching it play out. Perhaps allowing his teammate Sean McNamara to play the attack dog role. They're no quicker than Damien Cairns this lap.
Sean just got the fence on the run off of turn 5. If I'm in Sean's shoes now, I just back it off coming in there, rotate it a lot narrower and point it sharper so that I can drive it off regardless of what Ken Ladder's doing off the final corner. Oh, he's so close. He is so close. Look, he let him get away that time. Watch this. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, Ladder's in! Ladder just gave it up!
So it's interesting. So he's going to maybe try to undercut and cover McNamara and Gamble, but it will put him into a whole swathe of traffic. He'll be behind some drivers slower than him that have already made their second stop, and he'll have to work his way through them. Could be a tough ask.
I think that's the wrong call. I 100% think that's the wrong call.
Maybe he couldn't go much further. I don't know, because Travis Hunt, Logan Barnett, Stephen Varga are also all in for their second stop now.
So we watch and we wait.
Damien Cairns, for one, is way ahead of Ken Ladder. There's Ken Ladder all the way back there. Damien Cairns, all these other drivers have gone through, so it puts him into traffic with these drivers now. By the time he blends out, oh, it's so close. But he's 22nd place. Behind 3, 6, 8, 9 other drivers that have already made their second stop.
The thing for Sean McNamara that is making me say he wants to stay out right now is he's light. And he's not in traffic. Ladder's going to catch a car just ahead of him right here.
You tell me Ken Ladder with new tyres is going to work his way quicker through 9 drivers than McNamara is going to do in clean air right now.
I don't. McNamara's going to absolutely clear him.
Not on a street circuit.
No, no way.
Who's these guys? So now they're through. What kind of pace can they manage? Can they be much quicker than Ken Ladder was able to do? We'll get to the end of next lap when we know. And now it's only your top 6 on track that haven't made their second stop. Other drivers coming through, and that 6th place is Jason Fewens.
Have a look at him work the wheel as he gets through the section. I can tell you Ken Ladder's just got to the inside of Greg Sharp on the run of turn 1, so 1 driver picked off. So he is really looking to get aggressive on these tyres. lost 32 seconds on the most recent lap and 8 seconds on the lap prior to the drivers who didn't stop on those laps. What can he make up now in terms of the run time? McEwen's in, Crosby's been through the lane. John Latham has got a speeding penalty. Or another penalty, or something further for Latham. Might be his day done.
I think that's already served.
I'm going to say day done for John Latham. Stewart and Thomas are now in as well, so they couldn't have gone much further. How long is Jason Fewens is going to dive into the lane? So that's what it looks like an onboard pit lane entry from the man with the guest grimace in sim racing. You know, I think they named a shake at McDonald's after him.
Maybe Dean Flavel can have one.
Can we check in with the Dino Dino? I'm curious to see what the heart rate's at the moment.
I reckon it'd have to be pretty high on a street circuit, because you have to be alert on a street circuit. And look at him here in the 17th position.
Oh boy, up around 120 beats a minute. So that's my target heart rate. So when I get to the gym, I try to do interval training. I try to get my heart rate down to about 120 before I go again. And Dean is sitting there whilst racing a car. Oh, I can tell you Ken Latta is at the moment going door-to-door with Troy Stone Street on the run to the back straightaway. As he tries to cut his way through, he's losing a bucket load of time. He just lost a second on the most recent lap to Sean McNamara, and he's going to lose probably more than that on the current lap. Gets down the inside. Another one picked off. That's 2 since the pit stop. But he's losing time. He's losing so much time to the race lead. And my apologies, he did actually gain a second compared to those guys. Well, the tyres definitely working.
But the traffic isn't, so it ebbs and flows in that way. Yeah. So clean air with fresh tyres, 9/10 gained, working his way through these cars that stopped 15, 20 laps ago, half a second lost, and now look, he gets to the back of a whole bunch more that he's battling for position under no obligation to let him through whatsoever. And point out that Ken Latta right now is 38 seconds behind Sean McNamara and Scott Gamble. He's 10 seconds behind Damien Cairns. So I think this is looking good for Cairns, Whiting, and if Delaney's managing that fuel well, it's looking good for him as well.
Oh, Ken's going to have a go right here. Just sends it. Such is the desperation from the fishy driver. One more picked off. Another box checked. And this will be a really, really interesting lap. We have to keep an eye on how much time he gains or loses to Sean McNamara this time by, because this will be critical. And have a look at the traffic he's just caught up to. There is no way he makes time over the next couple of laps. He is about to just get boxed in.
None of these bar Gary Buckland need to stop again. So it's now these are guys he's battling, and they're on older tyres than him, but he's got to fight him out for the remaining 12 laps.
He went
if he
neutral.
wants the top 5, top 10.
Neutral on that lap to the race leaders. At the moment, you would say he's slightly ahead is Ken Latta. McNamara's got more fuel to dump on board, so you would say he's going to be ahead of him, and then Gamble was probably about a second back, so... Oh, immediately fires it down the inside, but that's a teammate. He's going to at least work with you a touch. How good is this, though, Dave? We get to see somebody overtaking in anger around Long Beach.
Wide there at turn 8. I mean, it's good. He's making some gutsy moves. It's a significant tyre delta he's got of 18 laps to most of these. Surely, with 6 cars and 10 seconds behind Damien Cairns, not gonna get to him.
Not impossible. He is running out of time, though. That's the big key.
I wonder how the overcut's going for McNamara and Gamble, though, because if they could make their pit stop and blend out just 4 seconds ahead of Ken Latta, might that have way less traffic?
Oh, and Ken's going to get held up massively on this lap, just missed timing. He should have centered it at turn 1. If he centered it on Brad Doble at turn 1, I think Doble would have just let him have it. But he didn't, and now Brad Doble had to fight him and check him up the whole way through this section. Now he's just getting boxed in, and the tyre delta is running away. The longer that he runs on these tyres, the more it's going to equalise. Oh.
McNamara pits.
McNamara's in, so he's called time on that one. Gamble's going to kick on, and Latta's going to send it to the inside on the run of the back straight. Doble will get out of the way. Hold your breath, ladies and gentlemen. Sean McNamara and a pit stop and a dream. And how long before Gamble is in as well?
Yeah, maybe only 1 or 2 laps from here. Where they blend out is going to be so interesting to me.
McNamara drops. Was extra fuel to go in, and there was a reasonable chunk of it. He's towards the pointy end. He was on the front row, so he comes to the cone. I think he's going to feed him behind. Here comes the first of those cars.
I mean, Damien Cairns, Michael Whiting, Blake Delaney, they're already way gone.
Ladder's gone. So he will feed in at the back end of this train, and he's going to have massively fresher tyres. The one benefit of Ken Latta in this pack is he's chalked them all up together, feeds in behind. What spot does McNamara come back out in? It is going to be in P13, right behind Troy Stone Street.
Yeah, not great overcut and not a particularly quick stop either from Sean McNamara there. So if you thought maybe he could blend out near Ken Latta, there was still a chance at the podium, but he's got all of everything that we've just seen Ken Latta do, and then Ken Latta disappearing a little bit further up the road from him. If Gamble can have a, I don't know, 3-4 second quicker pit stop than McNamara, he'll be in a really nice spot. But if it's the same, yeah, it'll be rough.
McNamara's going to go and try and pick off the first one. It'll be Troy Stone Street. Stone Street's going to roll out and yield that one straight away. So now we get to see these guys really have a crack at a number of different drivers. This creates... I'm so glad this happened, Dave, because this has made this a spicy, spicy race. And now they're all checking up. Buckland is fighting with Chad Lewis. And we think that Gary Buckland might have a stop yet to do.
Yeah,
which is why he's in this position.
Yeah, him and Stone Street and David Nash. And then, of course, Scott Gamble, the only one left at the very front, still owing us a stop. Damien Cairns and Michael Whiting are looking pretty good. They're dropping Blake Delaney a little bit, so if he's needing to manage fuel, he's needing to manage it more than those other drivers. But still, Delaney's got 5 seconds behind him to Dan Hall. So I want to say net and pit stop adjusted, Damien Cairns leading from Michael Whiting, Blake Delaney and Dan Hall.
Well, Chad Lewis is really, really trying to work things through. McNamara's just picked off another one. Now his next target will be Chris Miller. He's only 2 seconds behind. Last lap, lost time though to Ken Latta to Scott Gamble. So Gamble is making, again, a touch of headway, and Chad Lewis is getting the elbows out. Just block Latta down the back straight away. So this is not what Ken Latta need. This might be with an undercut starts to make an advantage, and now he's going to get checked on the run of the final corner. And don't forget, that is Buckland ahead, and Buckland's going to finally come out of this group, go to the pit lane. But that is time that Ken Latta lost. I need to see the split on this lap because I know it's not going to be good. What is it when we cross the start-finish line? It's going to be 0.7 of a second that Gamble has just gained over Ken Latta, and that is a huge margin. That might be enough. That lap right there might be the key.
Yeah, and Latta's used up some of the best of those tyres. When Gamble makes his stop, he'll come out on those tyres with only a little bit to run tail end of this race. McNamara not too far behind this.
No, he's not. He's really
Damien
close.
Cairns got to have every finger and toe crossed, surely.
And McNamara's going to have a go at Chris Miller on the run down here. Miller pulled it up nice and accurately. Very good defensive effort now from Chris Miller. He is playing rear gunner for Ken Latta. And the fishy drivers, there's a few of them in the field. And tonight is the night where you needed a few of them. Last week it was Chris Miller who was the strategy guru. This week, who's it going to be out of this mob? What a race. I'm just sitting here going, I haven't enjoyed I hate Long Beach. I really, really hate this place. As McNamara gets to the inside, forced up and over the curb. They're going to go side by side to the final corner. McNamara's on the outside. You don't see this. This just doesn't happen. Forced to yield before they get to the final corner. They all come to a standstill. Ladder got the job done somewhere in the middle of that
Gamble
lap.
blending?
On Chad Lewis. Gamble's in the lane. Here we go, ladies and gents.
He's coming out of the lane, so where does he blend? Damien Cairns, Michael Whiting, Blake Delaney already through, but can he be ahead of Ladder? I don't think he can. It's such a tight exit here.
I think he's okay.
Can't turn into way late.
Oh, it doesn't get in. Just feeds in behind Chad Lewis. So there's one car in between the two of them, and he is going to have the freshest rubber of the lot of them with 7 laps to go. Here we go. And it's immediately does not wait to Scott Gamble, fires it down the inside, clears Chad Lewis. So it is going to be a heads-up duel now between Ken Ladder, who pit 9 laps ago, and Scott Gamble.
Yep, and they look like a chance of catching Dan Hall, if I'm honest, and we know that Gamble's just gone on to a very brand new set of tyres, and he can so attack for these final 6 laps. Dan Hall might even be one of those drivers who needs to save a little bit. So they're fighting for 4th place, but we talked about at the very start of this, an almost perfect record this season for Scott Gamble of picking up every available point. Not going to happen from Long Beach. These street circuits breed a chaos all their own.
Hey Dave, I'm going to throw something in the back of your mind. I don't think a podium is off the table for these guys either. I just don't think it's gone, because if they can clear down
only
more,
if Delaney runs out of fuel.
Well, it's 6 seconds down the road. I think they're a second a lap faster than Delaney. They've got the time. They just need to cut through Dan Hall. Dan Hall is going to be the critical factor to Blake Delaney finishing on the podium. Has he got the fuel? And Ladder's rear end is all out of shape. Gamble is there. Gamble is right there. Doesn't make contact. This is going to put him on the outside. This will force Ladder to go narrow on the approach. Gamble's going to switch back. Is he going to get far enough alongside? No, he won't. Ladder will turn in early to squeeze him. Here we go.
And you reckon they're going to catch Blake Delaney a second a lap?
Not at this rate. Not at this rate. And Ladder is backing him up. And Dan Hall licks his lips, looks in the rear view and says, you boys crack on. I'm going to try and get out of here.
I mean, this is riveting stuff, but shortly you got to think about what's for the race win, and it's Whiting versus Cairns.
I think
Whiting's through, isn't he?
Whiting through.
Whiting's through for the race lead.
Oh no, I wanted to see Damien Cairns win one. I really did. Oh. Michael Whiting, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Please get out of the way. I want to see Damien. I don't want him to pull over and hand it to him. Damien Cairns has driven beautifully tonight, put himself on the right strategy. But he's on the podium a couple times in V8 Veterans history, just no race win. This one is not off the cards either. They took over a second on the last lap out of Blake Delaney, and there is still an opportunity. This is the overtake for the race victory up ahead. Michael Whiting versus Damien Cairns, and it was on the inside, on the run down onto the back straightaway, and you just can't be on the outside around there. So difficult. Does he get the drive out the other side? He does.
Both of their tyres are 29 laps old, but perhaps a chance that Cairns and Delaney are both on the same fuel strategy approximately. Whiting took 2 seconds more.
We need to go back to live pictures because Gamble, Ladder and Dan Hall are going toe to toe. Ladder is having a crack all across the road. Dan Hall's covering him. Could this put Ladder in the wrong spot to try and get this done? Could this offer an opportunity to Scott Gamble? They're into each other, and Gamble's going to go around the outside. Gets through just by the skin of his teeth. Gamble gets released. Oh, that one wasn't in the playbook. And Dan Hall will be annoyed. You've got to say for sure. Now Gamble, what can he do with what's left on the table? 4 laps left to run.
And Michael Whiting extending his gap to Damien Cairns. Blake Delaney catching the both of them. Scott Gamble on that lap, it won't surprise you. Not much quicker than the top 3, but now he's got clean air, and he does have the freshest tyres of just about anyone, and hopefully fuel to be able to motor at them in these final couple of laps. It'll get close, but it's too many cars to get through for Scott Gamble to make this a race win. Can he get on the podium? I wouldn't rule it out.
Well, Dan Hall's done. Huge damage. We might see a safety car and we might see the end of the race, which would, you know what? I have a feeling it's done. I have a feeling it's done. It's going to be done. You're going to let it tow. They're going to let it tow. There will be no safety car.
Cairns is coming back at Whiting. This is for the race lead.
Go, Damien Cairns. I'm sorry, Michael Whiting. I'm not saying that I'm not a fan of yours. It's just that I would love to see Damien Cairns win a race. He's never won one before.
I'll take on Whiting then for these final 3 laps, and you and I can, you know, have. We'll each draft our own horse.
Well, the thing is, Damien Cairns is both of these guys are just lovely gentlemen. You would take your time to talk to these. Oh! He's running the barriers on his own in turn 1, and then he's just got no steering.
Oh.
Able to do.
This is the McNamara.
McNamara? No, he's in hot at his moment.
Yeah, Dan Hall does it himself, but he's battling with Sean McNamara there.
2.5 to go. So let it tow. Race control are not going to get involved with the safety car to finish this one off, and Delaney's coming back at our race leaders. Scott Gamble's 2.5 seconds away from Blake Delaney. There could be an overtake on the final lap of the race. There is 2.5 laps left to run. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're sitting along at home and wondering why am I going berserk bananas and out of my skin, you don't get these races at Long Beach. It's normally a train affair. You don't get overtaking. I love the fact that this happened. When I realized we're at Long Beach tonight, I was getting ready to sit here, relax. I'd done a little bit more research. I was getting jokes and stuff ready, you know, to try and entertain the people at home. But the drivers have put on the show tonight.
Cairns doesn't think he's out of this, but Michael Whiting's the one in best position now with 2 laps to go, just over 6 kilometres.
Dave, when was the last time you saw a race from Long Beach, and you broadcast a lot of races, that was this good?
Oh, never. No, never like this.
No, I've never done one like this good either. Never.
2 to go. Scott Gamble's only 1.5 seconds behind Blake Delaney.
And he's ripping tenths a sector out of him. Multiple tenths a sector are coming out of him at the moment. And Sean McNamara has got back to Ken Latta as well, so they're going to duke it out in the final lap of the race for 5th. With a question mark hanging over Ken Latta, of course.
Here we go. Fasten your seatbelts. Make them nice and tight for this final lap, because it's on for 1st and 2nd. It's on for 3rd and 4th. Nothing in this top 4 can be taken for granted. Don't even rule out any of your top 3 coughing and spluttering their way from the final hairpin to the checkered flag.
Oh, McNamara is closing as well. McNamara is the closest he's been on the run off the final corner. Does he finally, on the final lap of the race, have the opportunity to get down the inside of Ken Latta at turn 1? I think he's just going to have a try. No, he's not. He backs out of it again. So Latta will have punch number 1. And after 150 kilometers, after one of the races of the season, from a street course no less, in the V8 Supercars, Gamble is struggling to get back to them. Delaney's catching the front 2.
Yeah, it's closing up big time between all of your top 4. So Cairns getting closer to Whiting, Delaney getting closer to both of them. Scott Gamble, the quickest driver on track right now. And Latta covering off McNamara as well. But where, between now and the checkered flag, could Cairns mount a run that would stop Michael Whiting now?
He can't. He's out of opportunities. The big one is, can Scott Gamble get back to Blake Delaney? The only night of the season we might be talking about the tail end of the field when Gamble doesn't finish on the podium. But we get our top 6 shuffled, adjusted, shaken up, and not stirred as they light them up, come out the final corner. All 6 of them in shot on the run to the flag. It's going to be Michael Whiting's night. From the streets of Long Beach, the man with a fish in his name takes it to the sands and the surf of Long Beach.
There we go, and in the end, Scott Gamble finishes 4th, 1.8 seconds away from the race lead. So if that safety car had come 1 lap earlier, he still might have been able to come through the field and win this thing. If the traffic had been just slightly different, he maybe could have still come through the field and won this thing. But in the end, if it had gone 1 lap longer, Michael Whiting probably wouldn't have won this race. But he does, and it all falls perfectly for him. For a second, it looked like Damien Cairns. For a while, it looked like Blake Delaney. In the end, it's Michael Whiting who makes the most of an ambitious strategy.
Oh, what a night. I'm just disappointed for Damien Cairns because I think he had the ability to win that race here tonight. I know he will be ecstatic with second, but the first time in your career you might have an opportunity to win a race in the V8 Veterans, and he might feel a little bit upset with P2. And he's never felt that emotion before in V8 Vets. That's tough to read. He looks pleased. He looks happy. But at the same time, I don't think he's ecstatic. Yeah, he led laps. You're 100% right.
I don't think Michael Whiting was going to run out of fuel. The whole podium on the front stretch. They're celebrating their result that I don't think many of them were expecting when Michael Whiting started out at 19th on the grid, when Damien Cairns started out at 9th on the grid, in fact, Delaney started out at 10th on the grid. Probably were thinking a podium would be nice, but the circumstances they got it, all of them having led some laps with a chance at taking the victory. Oh, what a race and a roller coaster of emotions they all had.
There's something in the water tonight. I said I was doing a Porsche Cup race for the New
Oil
Zealand
spill?
Championships tonight, and I said I think a few of these guys have eaten Fruit Loops because it was just a loopy race, or they've just had a whole bunch of whiz fizz prior to the flag being dropped. It happened here too. Weird things happened on Thursday, the 10th of October, 2024, ladies and gentlemen. Weird race results, weird strategy calls, and people on the right strategy at the right time. Michael Whiting will take a race win for Fishing Motorsports in the streets of Long Beach. The fish are on top. Damien Cairns will take out P2, and Blake Delaney will fuel save his way to P3. Had some work to do, but got the job done. Scott Gamble will be disappointed, and he told immediately. You can tell when Scott Gamble's annoyed, because that'll be the first thing that he does. Ken Ladder gets home with 5th, just ahead of Sean McNamara. Those two threw everything at each other. Ladder comes out on top. Chris Miller from Chad Lewis gets home inside the top 10. Be very happy with that one. Will be disappointed with the result for teammate Dan Hall, didn't finish. Robert Crisdale from Troy Stone Street is your top 10. Greg Sharp and Troy Stone Street, by the way, biggest movers on the night for both of those guys. It'll be Greg Sharp, who was one of the biggest movers. Dean Flavel will finish in 12th spot. The dyno did some work here tonight. Mark Poynton from David Kirby, who was in 4th earlier on, finishes all the way back in 14th spot. Paul Warwick, Travis Hunt, Jeff Thomas, Logan Barnett, Stephen Varga, and Scott McCune. There was no camera on him tonight. Did okay. He'll be happy with that result. He finished one. Michael Stewart finishes out at 21st spot. Unlucky for him. Christian Smart and Matt Vanderkraan also very unlucky for Vanderkraan, who was on the right strategy at the right time too and just didn't go his way. Darren Crosby, Jason Fewens and the Grimace Shake Machine out at 25th. David Nash from John Galling, Gary Buckman, Stewie Hall and Brad Doble rounding out your 30. Doble getting turned in that incident with Dan Hall as well. Darren Goosey, the last car on the lead lap. Off of the lead lap would be Griffiths and friend Dan Hall, not finishing the race, but will score points 3 laps down, as will John Latham and Tim Nicol. Lorne Mackay will not score points tonight, neither will Matty Parker, and those were the 38 drivers who entered the server and turn laps from the race. Matty Parker not showing in the race, so also not scoring points. On conclusion here tonight, we have got to pick a driver of the day somewhere in that as well. So, yeah, that's all got to come. We'll start from the bottom end of a podium and work our way up. Talking to the driver, the 008, who had some fuel saving to do, but got the job done. Just one extra lap, Blake Delaney. You think you're in trouble?
Yep.
Getting
Way too less. Nowhere near enough.
Mate, in terms of things, we were just sitting here in the booth saying we haven't seen that many overtakes in a race at Long Beach, nor a wacky strategy, nor things go that way. That was probably about the most exciting race from Long Beach I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to the boys that picked up the wrong car on the safety car. That was sensational. I don't think they need wrap over the knuckles. I actually think that they need a praise because it helped us. But no, that was awesome. There were so many people all over the joint tonight. There was calls everywhere coming in. I can't believe there was only one safety car though.
Oh, not wrong. Yeah, wild things, wild things. Talk us a little bit through, you're underfueled, and the fact that we got a few extra laps under that safety car probably saved you in the end.
Yeah, by a long way. So I think I pitted about lap 10, just before the safety car came out, maybe 3 laps before it, and then just decided to come in immediately again and chance the 37 laps behind, 37 laps on a set of tyres, or something like that, 36 laps on a set of tyres, which is pretty crazy. But I underfilled by too much. It's just lucky there was a safety car, and it did go as many laps as what it did. I thought it would do one more lap and it would have been okay, but I just had to save right to the end then. I hoped to get a few more laps at the end to have a crack at Damien, but it wasn't to be.
Mate, in terms of things, still third on the road. Were you looking in that rearview mirror quite aggressively, still knowing, I had to save a little bit?
I want to say I was managing the gap, but really I was just making sure that I had enough at the end to fight off for two laps. But I think if he had got to my bumper, he would have been smart enough to try and send me long or get up the inside. But no, it was just very lucky he didn't get to the bumper. So I'm stoked.
Mate, congratulations. Good to chat with you back up here in the booth again. Who would you like to give a thank you to?
Yeah, to just all the boys. Thanks very much to everyone tonight in Fishy, West End Motor Group, Infinity Designs, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Early Beach, and Precision Sim Training. Thanks very much to you boys in the booth, and hope you have a good night.
Hey, mate, I think you got one to watch back tomorrow. That was certainly a fun call. Thank you very much for your time, Blake.
Yeah, thanks. No worries. Will do. Cheers, boys.
Have a good one. And we'll move one step further forward in terms of the podium. We speak to the driver of the Double 8 machine, Damien. I was singing your praises. I was sitting here going, yes, he's going to win one. Finally, I'd love to see Damien Cairns win one, and you fell one spot short.
I know. It was just so hard to hold on to the car towards the end. And I was just hoping that Michael would make a mistake, and he already did, but he almost got past him. But yeah, no, that was hard work, that last 28 laps.
Mate, challenging. We just were talking about in the booth, 34 laps, I think, on that set of tyres to the end of the race. Blake just said that was a long, long way to try and manage the car, manage the pace. And he had fuel saving to do as well, which didn't make it easier. You didn't have to save fuel. How was the tyres at the scrappy end of that one?
Yeah, they weren't great. Yeah, like you said, you just had to manage them, but still try and keep enough pace that you got enough that when they come out of the pit, you got enough gap to be able to hold them off. So yeah, it was tough work towards the end there, even just keeping the car straight. But yeah, so happy to be get a podium, especially with this field that we've got. Yeah, bloody beautiful. Shame I didn't quite get that one just that little bit closer.
Mate, we were saying here, I said he's never won one in this split. I know it'd be a big thing. Are you elated with P2, or is it the first time you're sitting here and going, I'm disappointed I didn't win that one?
No, it's like winning first for me. Just to get on the podium itself is a win. So, yeah, no, absolutely stoked. I was absolutely stoked when he crossed the line.
I'd really like to point out that over the last couple of seasons, you've become a mainstay inside that top 10. I mean, what's gone into improving and driving to that level week in and week out from your side of things?
I just think the team, we get together and help each other out. And, and I think just driving, only started when COVID sort of started. So obviously the more you do it, the better you get. So I don't know, hopefully something just clicks and it keeps staying this way. I'll be happy.
Mate, been a while since we last spoke to you, so congratulations on P2. Who'd you like to give a big shout out to tonight?
I'll give a big shout out to my beautiful wife first. She's been telling me if I win, I can have whatever I want. So I'm having whatever I want tonight. You beauty. And Box and Lock, Primal Wheels, Abby Timber, and just all the boys from the team, and all the guys in bets, you guys on the broadcast. Yeah, loving it. Great.
Just a quick question for you. We're sitting here and scrapping away at the stats. We can tell you definitively that's your 22nd top 5 finish. How many podiums have you got in the V8 Vets?
This would be 3, I think.
That's the number that we were all settling on as well. So good to see that our stats landed in the right spot, mate. Congratulations, and go off and celebrate with the boys.
Absolutely. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Damo. And we'll take one step further forward. It's the man that mastered the strategy. He is the biggest fish of them all. The man with a fish for the last name. Behind Fishy Motorsport, Michael Whiting from the streets of Long Beach. You'll be celebrating off down in the sand dunes and probably riding a few waves after that one.
Yeah, that was a very different race, that one. Had a really poor qualifying result, started P19. So I thought, we might go short, pit early, hope for a safety car, maybe get the second stop done. Unfortunately, the guys in there didn't grab the leader straight away, so that kind of threw cat amongst the pigeons a little bit. Some of the guys that should have been right up the front got pretty screwed over by that, so I sort of feel like I've been gifted it a little bit, but I'll take it. The strategy was there. I was going to gain quite a few spots. I certainly didn't expect to win it, but I'll take it, that's for sure.
Mate, again, this is you're the third person we've asked tonight. Weird races at Long Beach, that feel normally when you come to this place, it's a little bit of a procession. You've got to try and really work someone over. You've really got to make the undercut, the overcut work to get the job done. Do you recall many races from Long Beach quite like that one?
No, not really. I mean, there was a Scops one that went dark. That was interesting. The driving around a supercar in the dark around there is not that much fun. But no, you don't see that too often at Long Beach, that's for sure.
Look, challenging race, like you said, you had to drive your way through the field, sort of strategize and at least be thinking. I got the feeling that when everyone shows up at the street course, Long Beach, I think in particular, probably a little bit more than Detroit, Belle Isle, safety cars are just they're going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if, really. So that went into the strategy planning tonight, and obviously that came out the right way for you guys.
Yeah, it just happened to land. It was probably a little sooner than I would have liked. Another 5 laps or so would have been a bit nicer, just so I didn't have such a long stint on the last set of tyres. I think I did 24 or 28 laps or something on the last set of tyres, so they were pretty cooked by the time the race was finished. But yeah, safety cars are pretty much a given there. There's always someone that hits a wall or pops an engine, or it's pretty rough on the gear.
Mate, finally, the floor is all yours to give a few thank yous and shout outs that you'd like to hand out tonight. I know, obviously, you said, you say it's luck, but it's luck meets opportunity, and that brings you a win here tonight.
Yeah, 100%. I'd like to thank all the guys over at West End Motor Group, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Airlie Beach, Infinity Designs, Relax Marine and Game Fishing, and I think that's it.
Mate, congratulations on a race win here tonight, Mike. Good opportunity to chat to you once again, and we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, you too, guys. Thanks, guys.
I can also say, actually, whilst we've got him here in the booth, we'll give him one more shout-out as well. Chubby Buns Burgers, driver of the day, Michael Whiting, for a race win on the strategy as well, mate. Congratulations.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Well, ladies and gents, that is going to bring it to a close. From the weirdest, the wackiest, like I said, I've pulled some wacky things. We had 3 different championship leaders in the space of one race earlier on tonight, and another series I was commentating on, and then that one as well. So, Dave, what's it going to take to see another race like that one? Because we're off to Road America next week, and Road America tends to create similar styles of races.
It's the timing of that safety car, wasn't it? 2-3 laps earlier, you wouldn't have had as many drivers who had already made their first stop that could clear their second stop, and then a bit later, you would have had enough time for it to play out. It was just in this moment where Scott Gamble could come back through the field to 4th, but Michael Whiting, Damien Cairns, Blake Delaney had already made their first stop, could make their second stop, and jet through from 20th place, 25th place, through to complete the podium, including 18 positions gained across the race for Michael Whiting. And Road America is a very different character of track. It's far more wide open. It's why they call it the National Park of Speed. It runs through the forest. There's all sorts of space to play with. but it's a great track for these cars because it's got long straights, it's got high speeds, it's got some big stopping zones, and it's also got some lovely sweeping corners. It's got all of the challenge that is different to Long Beach.
And that is what makes it fun and interesting. The strategy blends itself wide open as well. And in terms of what the racing distance looks like next week, when we head to Road America, it'll be 250 kilometers. Not a full-out enduro round, but certainly longer than the 200-kilometer events that we see. It'll be one of the longer ones of the season, and we hope that you'll join us for 39 laps from Road America next week. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all the sponsors that make it possible for the RaceKraft V8 veterans, they got their money's worth tonight, because that was a blockbuster from the streets of Long Beach. RaceKraft Simulations, the title sponsor, Player One Sim Gear, SimSpeed, LGC Images, Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Utes, and our Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day sponsorship as well. We'll catch you all next week for another edition of the RaceKraft Veterans. Will the Vindaloo be this spicy this time next week? Only you can find out by tuning in then. We'll see you then.